We all hear about AI, right? How it's going to change everything, from our health to our money. But what if that exact same tech, the one that's supposed to lift everybody up, ends up creating the biggest gap between the rich and poor the world has ever seen? That's what we're digging into. And this isn't just some hypothetical worry. The alarm bells are ringing at the highest levels. This new report from the United Nations Development Program, the UNDP, it isn't just another dry technical paper. Nope. It is a massive warning shot to the entire world about what they're calling a great divergence. And it's all being fueled by AI. And this quote, wow, it just cuts right to the chase. The real danger here isn't some killer robot from a movie. It's about becoming invisible. Just think about that. A world where if you don't have a big enough digital footprint, you basically get erased from the systems that provide loans, healthcare, or even disaster relief. So this divergence the UN is so concerned about, what does it actually mean? Well, it's a future where AI doesn't lift all boats. Instead, it pushes some way, way up while leaving others completely behind, widening the gap not just between countries, but inside them too. Okay, so here's the thing you have to understand about AI. Its superpower is making predictions. It can look at a medical scan and spot a disease way earlier than a human can, or it can spot fraud in your bank account in milliseconds. But, and this is a huge but, that superpower has one critical weakness. It needs data, lots and lots of data. And that leads us to the million-dollar question, doesn't it? What happens when the AI goes looking for data about, say, a farmer in a rural village, or an informal gig worker, or someone from a displaced community, and it just finds nothing? A blank space, a data desert. And that blank space, that is the core of this brand new kind of inequality, the data divide. You know, this goes way beyond just who has a good internet connection. This is about who is even seen, who is represented in the data that is now running our world. The UNDP has a name for this whole phenomenon. They call it algorithmic exclusion. And it sounds technical, but it's really simple. It's a quiet, almost invisible kind of discrimination. It's not because some engineer programmed the AI to be biased. It's because the AI's entire worldview is incomplete. If you're not in the data, it literally cannot see you. And listen, we are not talking about some small niche group here. We're talking about huge chunks of the global population. And ironically, these are often the very people who could benefit the most from AI-driven services. But they're at risk of being completely left out simply because their lives, their languages, and their work just aren't easily captured in a nice, neat spreadsheet. Now, a lot of countries are seeing this problem coming, and they're trying to get ahead of it with these big national digital ID systems. You can see here in the UNDP's report how many countries, especially in the Asia-Pacific, are trying to build this foundational data layer, with the goal of giving every single citizen one unique, verifiable digital identity. But, and this is a really important but, these digital IDs are a total double-edged sword. On one hand, they can be an incredible tool for inclusion. An AI could use that ID data to give a loan to someone who's never even had a bank account. But on the other hand, what if you can't get that ID? For whatever reason, you're off the grid. Suddenly, the very system designed to include you ends up pushing you further into the shadows. Okay, so we've got this pretty bleak warning from the UN, this picture of a world splitting apart. But what if a country decided to say, nope, not on our watch? What if a country decided to take on this challenge head on? Well, that's exactly what is happening in India right now. This might be one of the most ambitious tech projects happening anywhere on the planet. The Indian government has launched something called the India AI Mission. And this isn't about funding a few cool startups. This is a massive top-down national strategy to build an entire AI ecosystem from the ground up, one that is specifically engineered for inclusion from day one. And they're absolutely putting their money where their mouth is. We're talking over $1.2 billion US. That's not just pocket change. That is a massive state-backed investment that says we are going to shape the future of AI in our country on our own terms. But you know, it's not just about throwing cash at the problem. This is the really clever part. They're not just funding things, they're providing the actual tools. India is building this huge public computing resource, making almost 19,000 of these high-end GPUs available. That's the raw horsepower you need to build AI. It gives startups and researchers the kind of power that used to only be available to, Silicon Valley giants. And they've got the people to pull it off. I mean, check this out. According to the Stanford AI Index, India is already number one in the entire world for AI talent. They're ahead of the US, ahead of Germany.
So they've got the money, they've got the talent, they've got the political will. The only question is, what are they going to build with it?
And this is where the big picture strategy gets really, really fascinating. See, to build an AI that actually works for 1 billion+ people in India, you have to solve a very specific and very human problem. You've got to understand that for hundreds of millions of people in India, the main way they interact with technology is through their voice. It's how they search, how they text, how they get things done. Building everything around a keyboard just isn't going to work. So, how on earth do you build a single AI system that can understand and speak to an entire nation with that incredible linguistic diversity? How do you make sure you don't create those same data deserts, but for language? Well, that's where companies like Sarvam AI come into the picture. They're a huge player in this India AI mission, and their entire reason for existing is to solve this exact problem, to build the core, foundational AI models that are truly fluent in the languages of India. And they're not just doing the easy stuff. They are tackling the really hard, messy, real-world challenges. Things like handling what's called Hinglish, where people flip between Hindi and English in the same sentence, or figuring out who's talking in a noisy, crowded market, or using the history of a conversation to understand what someone really means. This is the deep, difficult work you have to do to make AI actually useful for everyone. So, let's bring it all back home. We started with this stark global warning from the United Nations, and now we have this absolutely massive national experiment unfolding in India. Two very different stories. And this slide just lays it all out, doesn't it? These are the two potential futures for AI. On one side, the UN's divergence warning, a future of more inequality, more exclusion, and those data deserts. But on the other, you have India's convergence strategy, a bet on inclusion, self-reliance, and building a digital public infrastructure for everyone. It's a direct, ambitious answer to that global warning. Now, let's be really clear. This is a high-stakes gamble. There is absolutely no guarantee of success. India is basically running one of the biggest social and technical experiments in the world right now, testing a very simple but powerful idea, that AI doesn't have to make inequality worse, that you can actually engineer it deliberately for inclusion, right from the very start. And so that leaves all of us with a really vital question for the future. Can AI be built for the many and not just the few who already have the data and the power? Can a country actually steer this technology toward a more equal future? The whole world is watching what happens next in India because the answer might just be a blueprint for all of us.